Coming up on 8:45 this morning, we're talking about something that touches our everyday lives more than people might realize. It's bees that we're talking about here. So from the food we eat to the health of our environment, honeybees play a pretty vital role.
Yeah, we have some in studio with us this
sure
morning.
do.
And also in studio with us is Don Snewing from Thornapple Woodlands. Don is a beekeeper and educator who works to raise awareness about the importance of honeybees in Michigan and beyond. And Don, they are very important. So let's start with the big picture. Why are they so important to Michigan and our environment that we live in?
I think the primary importance to honeybees is the pollination that they do.
Yeah.
Pollination of flowers allows plants and trees to produce seeds and therefore fruit. So honeybees have a huge impact on our food supply.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You don't really realize the things that the honeybees do for some of our, our food supply, but also just in the ecosystem in general.
Exactly. When we have honeybees, the flowers and gardens around the honeybees look better, and honeybees will fly 2 miles or more from their hives.
Wow.
So they're doing great things in a huge area. Imagine a tiny little bug flying 2 miles.
Yeah, I see them all the time. When I go on a walk every single day, about 4 or 5 miles every day, and I do see them, in the different flowers. Specifically, I saw them in sunflowers recently here.
No kidding.
Over the last couple of days, actually.
Great. That's one of my favorite things to do is either go for a walk or a bike ride and look for honeybees in certain types of flowers, because that educates me as a beekeeper. Where are the honeybees going now to get their nectar to turn into honey, or where are they gathering their pollen that they're bringing back to their hives?
Oh, that's so interesting.
So they're coming back to the hives, bringing the pollen back. Can you explain kind of what's happening here?
Yeah,
what's going on
we've got some
inside
honeybees
the box
here right now. If you can't tell, they're all squirming around in there.
Oh yeah.
In a hive like this, what's happening is they're keeping the brood warm. Brood is eggs, larvae, and developing bees.
Oh, wow.
But in a hive like this, the bees aren't able to fly out. So this is an unnatural environment.
Okay.
But in a hive like this, in a true hive, the honeybees are bringing pollen back. That's their protein source. Like you and I eat eggs, meat, fish, peanut butter for our protein. Honeybees are bringing pollen back. They're also bringing nectar back. Now, right now, from probably the goldenrod, which is in bloom. The hives smell like butterscotch from the goldenrod nectar that's coming into the hives. They turn that into honey, and they need 60 to 80 pounds of honey to live through the winter.
Wow.
So we as beekeepers need to make sure that they have enough honey to live through the winter. If they don't, we can supplement that with a thick sugar syrup so that they have enough honey for the winter time.
Yeah, okay, so when you were talking about the unnatural hive versus the natural hive, you have one in there, right? Is that correct?
There are no bees in here.
Okay.
I was about to say.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, but this is the size of a normal beehive right here. In June, though, it's going to be taller. I would add honey boxes.
Okay.
Because the bees will bring back that nectar, turn it into honey by the chemicals they add from their bodies. And then during the night, they would take that honey and bring it up and store it in those boxes that I added in June.
Okay.
So now I've completed the annual harvest, and about August is when we harvest, typically. So now the hives have all those honey boxes removed, and we're down to a normal size like this again for the winter.
Wow, it's so interesting.
Oh, absolutely. I'm very interested to hear too. I know that a lot of people, including me, get a little squeamish around bees, but how has your journey been with that? I mean, I can't imagine you're that nervous around them anymore.
Right.
How does that work?
20 years ago when I started beekeeping, I had a pit in my stomach every time I opened a beehive. It just churned, and I thought, what's going to happen, But now my comfort level has increased greatly. I realize that bee stings are actually good for us in some ways. They help with aches and pains. People with arthritis or multiple sclerosis will actually sting themselves on purpose because of our reaction to that bee venom. For some people, it's beneficial. For others, it's not. They got to be very aware. There's a certain percentage of people that get anaphylactic reactions, and it could kill them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so these bees in here are doing what exactly? What are we watching them do?
Right now, they're keeping the brood warm.
Okay.
So the brood is eggs, larvae, and developing bees. They need to keep that brood 95 degrees.
Oh.
Wow.
Picture that in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In our hive, there's a ball of bees. They're eating honey, that 60 to 80 pounds of honey that we left on that hive for the winter. They're eating that. That allows them to shiver their thoracic muscle. That's the muscle they use to flap their wings. But they disconnect from their wings and they keep shivering that thoracic muscle. That generates heat. They conduct that heat right into their heads, climb into a cell, keep it 95 degrees right on the brood. That's what they're doing right now.
And that's what keeps the hive going in the future? Is that what I'm understanding?
That because the queen keeps laying eggs, she'll stop in November. When everything freezes, there's no nectar or pollen coming into the hives, and she'll start again in January, not laying 2,000 eggs a day like she does in May and June. Did you catch that?
Yep.
2,000 a day?
Yeah, that's wild.
She'll just lay a small patch of brood, a small patch of eggs, starting about Christmas time, about the solstice, the winter solstice. And then she'll gradually increase her egg laying as we get closer to spring and summer.
Okay, and so you were talking about the harvest, or you're talking about harvesting honey?
Oh, yeah.
At the end of August?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Typically, actually, I'll do it at the beginning of August, but August is our Michigan month for harvesting honey.
And you have some honey with us right here
I do.
today.
Yeah, and you can see one of them is liquid.
Okay.
So that
this one appears, this is the sugared one, right?
That one is crystallized,
Yep.
we would say, and that's what honey does. Naturally, it crystallizes. So people think, oh no, do I have to throw away my honey? No. Well, you can throw it my way if you want to throw it away. Loosen the lid, put it in a pan of hot, not boiling, water. Boiling would kill some of the beneficial enzymes in honey. It still tastes good, but just put it in a pan of hot, not boiling water, and it'll go right back to liquid again if you want it to. But why bother? Take some of that crystallized honey on your knife and spread it on your toast like butter and put a little cinnamon on that.
I love I love some raw honey. Can you talk about the benefits of that?
I think the benefits are primarily that you get the beneficial enzymes in honey. There are so many things in honey that help us with our health. For example, we could put honey on a burn. On my skin, when I burn myself loading the wood stove, I'll put it under cold water, put honey on that burn immediately for several seconds or whatever, and it starts to take that burn away. Honey is antimicrobial, antibacterial. So it's been used for embalming in the ancient times. It's really fascinating. Wouldn't that be the way to go?
And it tastes good, right?
Plus, it tastes good.
Oh yeah, huge perk there. I'm very curious. So they're keeping the brood warm right now, but how do they go about making honey? Is it still in a similar format to what we're seeing right here?
Sure. Bees gather honey by finding the sweetest nectar within about 2 miles from their hive. So they fly to an area of blossoms, and using their proboscis, part of their mouth shaped like a straw, they suck some of that nectar, that little bit of sweet liquid in that blossom, into their honey stomach. Bees have 2 stomachs, honey stomach and a food stomach, and they got a one-way valve between the 2 stomachs. So they fill up their honey stomach, it's like a crop on a chicken, with nectar, open up that one-way valve, let some of that nectar go into their food stomach. That gives them energy to fly back to their hive. Then they connect proboscis with a receiver bee, a bee living its first 3 weeks of life in the hive, and do this. Transfer the nectar from the forager bee that gathered it to the receiver bee. Chemicals are added by the bees' bodies in that transfer. That turns it into honey, but it's 80% water.
Wow.
So that receiver bee places that nectar in that hive wherever there's an open cell, and then they need to evaporate the water from it. They fan their wings and make air flow through that hive and evaporate the water from that honey until it's 16% water thick, like the honey we would eat.
So interesting. You know, we've got about 20 seconds left. If you can give me, for the people listening at home, what would you say the most important part of bees' role in the ecosystem is?
Pollination.
Okay.
I think because of what it does for our food supply. Yeah, I can't think of a better thing.
And if people want to learn more with you out there at the Woodlands, where can we find more information?
thornapplewoodlands.com. I'd be happy to come to your venue, your school, your library, and speak about honeybees or whatever it is.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much. We do have to go to a quick break, and we'll be back on the other side with the rest of your forecast.
Thank you.